let's start off today with what might have been one of the world's first UFO crashes ever, which took place over in Italy. According to Italian researcher Roberto Pinotti, he believes the first modern aliens arrived in Italy rather than America. Apparently, the first aliens did not emerge from the wreckage at Roswell, and forget about them hanging around Alien 51. Roberto has been investigating a rumored UFO crash in Italy from back in the 1930s, and he's been doing the study since 1996, which was before I was born. And in more recent years, somebody mailed him some strange documents anonymously. Hey, chuckle all you want, but we tend to give anonymous whistleblowers the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise around here. No, this corner of the interwebs. These records revealed attempts to conceal the occurrence. Now, the researcher is the National Ufological Center's president and claims to have proof not just of the 1933 UFO crash, but also of a secret department established by Benito Mussolini, you know, the famous former dictator of Italy. If you couldn't guess, this was to investigate the rumored UFO. According to the researcher, an unidentified flying object fell near Milan. RS-33 was the name of the research team, and Guglielmo Marconi was in charge. For those who are unfamiliar, especially since I probably butchered his first name, I apologize, I speak French, not Italian. He was the inventor of the radio and a supporter of Mussolini's fascist administration. According to a quote from Pinotti in an interview, in 1996, his colleague Alfredo Lusoni and himself began investigating the story of the 1933 UFO crash in Lombardy when they received some original secret documents about said case. The documents were obtained from someone who claimed to have inherited them from a family member, and this family member allegedly worked with Mussolini's RS-33. I know, you're probably asking right now, hey Alexa, what were the contents of the documents? 2 telegrams written in Italian in June of 1933, if I'm being exact. One requested absolute silence over an alleged landing on national soil of unknown aircraft, while another issued orders for immediate arrest and maximum penalties against anyone reporting on aircraft of unknown nature and origin on June 13th. According to the Daily Mail, this was the personal order of Mussolini. The UFO, according to Roberto, was kept in a hangar near Milan, and this lasted until the Allies seized control of Italy during the Second World War. The UFO was then captured and returned to the United States by American troops. I could go on a whole separate tangent about alien tech, Second World War theories, and America covering up alien spawnings around the world, but we'd be here all night. Nevertheless, that all seems mighty suspicious to me. Anyone else? Okie dokie. Time to throw an imaginary dart at the wall and see what we land on next. Good old Scientology. So this is a set of beliefs and practices invented by the American author L. Ron Hubbard, who developed a set of ideas he called Dianetics, which he represented as a form of therapy. Yeah, emphasis on the air quotes here. The organization that he established in 1950 to promote it went bankrupt, and then he lost the rights to his book in 1952. But he then recharacterized his ideas as religion for tax purposes and renamed them Scientology. If you know, you know. By 1954, he had regained the rights to Dianetics and founded the Church of Scientology, which remains the largest organization promoting Scientology. There are practitioners independent of the church in what is called the Free Zone. Estimates put the number of Scientologists at just under 40,000 worldwide. You know, not a lot of people. Scientology beliefs include reincarnation and that traumatic events cause problematic engrams in the mind. They believe that an activity called auditing can remove the bad engrams. Oh, and you're charged a fee for each session because they gotta make their money somehow. Once an auditor deems an individual free of engrams, typically after several years, they're given the status of clear. Now, after being deemed clear, adherents can take part in further activities called operating thetan levels, which require further payments. Hey, somebody's gotta pay Tom Cruise. The operating thetan texts are kept secret from most followers and revealed only after adherents have typically given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Scientology organization. If you don't have ridiculous amounts of money to burn, don't worry, they're freely available online on sites such as WikiLeaks. And if you don't want to waste your time, these texts say past lives took place in extraterrestrial cultures. I don't agree with Scientology, but I do agree with aliens visiting Earth, or else we wouldn't be here today. They involve an alien called Xenu, described as a planetary ruler 70 million years ago who brought billions of aliens to Earth and killed them with thermonuclear weapons. Despite being kept secret from most followers, this forms the central mythological framework of Scientology's, psyche. It makes sense, I swear. From soon after the formation, all of the Scientology groups have generated considerable amounts of opposition and controversy, mostly because of illegal activities. In 1967, Hubbard established a new elite group, the Sea Organization, or Sea Org, the membership of which was drawn from the most committed members of the church. Now by 1981, 21-year-old, at the time, David Miscavige, who had been one of, big guys closest second-in-commands rose to prominence. Harbor died at his ranch in Creston, California in January of 1986, and Miscavige succeeded him as the head of the church, a position he holds till this day. Now, he's done a lot of shady stuff, but we're not going to touch on that today. I've talked about it ad nauseum. The Church of Scientology has been described by government inquiries, international parliamentary bodies, scholars, law lords, and numerous Superior Court judges as both a dangerous cult and a manipulative profit-making business. I could talk for, hours and hours about how awful they are, but the most important thing is that, well, we share a belief, ancient aliens coming to Earth, educating everybody. Alrighty, this is something that has always stumped me, so we're gonna move along, but let's just think about this for a moment. The graffiti inside the Great Pyramids. Yes, I'm gonna explain. In the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids: the Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkaure, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. I'd like to visit there someday, ideally. Though each was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel is, though, the Great Pyramid. We've all heard about it, we all know it, we all love it. Most believe that it was erected under the watchful eye of the great pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing 146.7 meters high and stretching 234.4 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is particularly amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time and that construction took only 20 years. Look, if that sounds like a lot to anybody, try living in Toronto, where construction takes that long to renovate a single road. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north quite precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. The origins and composition of the Great Pyramid, our oldest wonder of the world and its slightly less famous kin, have long confounded scholars. How did engineers manage to achieve all of this so fast? No. Nobody knows. Genuinely, nobody has any idea, well, with absolute certainty that is. While some believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has been largely disproven because there's not a lot of archaeological evidence to support the claim. So, this is where our lovely ancient aliens come into play. They must have helped. I'm not saying they did all the work, that would be discrediting the incredible workers from history. But it's true that it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids. And there is missing history about how they were built. A lot of folks have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times just help kickstart civilization. They're not responsible for all of it. Well, I don't think so anyways. But they just gave us a little nudge. A helping hand, if you will. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us kind of argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, you'd kind of want a bird's eye view. The kind that could be provided from, I don't know, flying saucer? Also, in order to create an object that obeys a so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on 5, the Egyptians might have wanted some help from outside sources. Look, this theory has persisted to today. It's still going. We all talk about this. Let's go back to 2001. Russian scientist Dr. Viktor Ivanovich claimed that the KGB had found ancient alien remains inside the Great Pyramid. Hey, it's got quite the inner network of shafts, passageways, and chambers that is so intricate that it's not hard to understand why people believe that some sort of divinity or superintelligence could be involved. Also, the only hieroglyphs inside are graffiti, alleged to be left behind by those who worked on the structure as a signature, which only further supports my theory on the aliens only knowing that to communicate with us by. I've talked about this theory time and time again, but like time capsules, the pyramids are physical symbols of ancient wisdom. Look, they're made of glittering golden limestone, and they always remain around a cool 20 degrees centigrade inside, which provides glimpses of an ancient society that once near the kind of technological intelligence we possess today. Who knows? Maybe in 2,000 years, historians will speculate about the extraterrestrial origins of our fallen civilization, and maybe by then they'll be able to consult them for help. Next up, stories from the Ramayana. In Hindu mythology, the gods and their avatars travel from place to place in flying vehicles called Vimana. There are many mentions of these flying objects in the Ramayana, which used by the king Ravana from Sri Lanka dates to the 5th or 4th century BCE. Obviously, I do have some examples. So from Book 6, The Magic Car, is not the wondrous chariot mine, named Pushpak, wrought by hands divine. This chariot, kept with utmost care, will waft thee through the fields of air, and thou shalt light unwearied down in fair Ayodhya's royal town. From the departure, swift through the air, as Rama chose, the wondrous car from earth arose, and decked with swans and silver wings, bore through the clouds its fright of kings. Eric von Daniken discusses the Ramayana and Vimanas in chapter 6, Chariots of the Gods, suggesting that they were space vehicles. To support his hypothesis, he offers a quotation, which he says is from an 1889 translation of the Mahabharata by C. Roy. Bhima flew with his Vimana on an enormous ray, which was as brilliant as the sun and made a noise like the thunder of a storm. The existence existence of the text was revealed in 1952 by G.R. Joycer, who asserted that it was written by Pandit Subbaraya Shastri, who dictated it during the years between 1918 to 23. A Hindi translation was published in 1959, while the Sanskrit text with an English translation was published in 73. It contains a lot of information in which Shastri claimed was psychically delivered to him by the ancient Hindu sage Bahajava. This text tends to be great proof for those of us who believe in ancient astronauts, otherwise known as the Anunnaki, which brings me to my next and final point. Seriously, did you think I was going to end today without going more in depth about the Anunnaki? Please! It's often suggested that the Anunnaki possessed the technology to either fly, either within our atmosphere or between planets. Ancient depictions of winged gods or flying discs get cited as evidence. Which kind of support modern day UFO theories and beliefs, something I believe in. Depictions of modern craft found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors, which is believed to be none other than the Anunnaki. For folks like us, hieroglyphs, yep, you heard me, appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago, kinda makes us believe that ancient Egyptians were visited by the aliens. Look, if ancient civilizations were putting helicopters and modern spacecrafts in their artwork, they had to have some idea where that was coming from. They had to see it somewhere. Or they had really great imaginations, but that kind of makes sense to me. Look, some folks even go so far as to believe that all or some humans are either descendants or creations of extraterrestrial intelligence, because they just landed on Earth and decided to repopulate. An associated idea is that human knowledge, religion, and culture came from extraterrestrial visitors way back when, so the Anunnaki acted as some sort of a mother culture. The evidence for ancient astronauts comes from documentary gaps in history and archaeological records, while citing archaeological artifacts that are believed to be beyond the technical capabilities of the people who made them. While I don't completely agree with that theory, there are elements of it that you can't explain otherwise. These are referred to as out-of-place artifacts and include quite a bit of artwork that it makes sense. A few weekends ago, the weekend of March 9th to the 10th to be specific, Rock Springs city attorney and longtime UFO investigator Richard Beckwith spotted something strange in the Wyoming sky, unlike anything else he had seen in his career. Thankfully for us, he captured this on camera. Now, what did he say? Well, he said, "I've never seen a UFO before I made this recording. We have the footage with us now, and I'd like for you folks to watch it." To me, it looks like a mix of yellowish, reddish, and orange spacecrafts that are all flying together, and they're all radiating lights. They're definitely flying in a way that doesn't make any logical sense when you consider human technology for aircrafts, unless the military wants to fess up right now about any tech they haven't told us about yet, which not gonna happen. And I'm including drones in my comparison, by the way. I've seen enough of those amateur and professional models of the little guys in action to know that this isn't that. So late in the evening on March 9th, Beckwith received a call from a friend who lived near Green River, about 15 miles southwest of where he was. So he grabbed his camera, his tripod, and what he witnessed once he got there came as a shock. He watched the object pulsating. It was moving rapidly from side to side. Now, Beckwith isn't trying to prove the object was an alien spacecraft, he's just trying to find an explanation. But you know where we stand on this. He has received a few potential leads on social media, but hasn't yet found any evidence as to what it could be. Now, it's time for him to dive into his investigation. He's done the right thing. He requested radar records from the FAA and connected with other witnesses. Gathering this information will help him find a reasonable explanation, or it might help him determine if it's truly a UFO. We do have a quote from him. He spoke to a couple of press outlets. He said that using the locations of the two different groups of witnesses, including myself, the angle and the distance between those two, and the angles between them and the object, and trigonometry, I should be able to pretty easily determine the location and get a good estimate of the size of the object. Right now, I have no idea. Well, when it comes to me, math ain't my strong suit, never has been, so I'm gonna trust him on that front. He's still hunting, and I wish him luck getting those radar records. Look, he did the right thing by asking for them, but I doubt he's gonna get them. He's also been pleading for anybody with more information to email him, and I bet his inbox is already flooded. So, good luck, pal. Time to travel over to the Ukraine for our next video. I mean virtually, folks. That's not somewhere you want to be vacationing anytime soon. I can't spell out why, because YouTube rules, but I'm sure we're all pretty aware of current world events. So the 406th Battalion captured a UFO on tape with a drone on the front lines over in Ukraine, and the video in question was posted to Reddit about a month ago. User Lively420 described the video as exclusive footage submitted to the frontier conflict from a unit they support showing a UAP over the front lines in the Ukraine. So, let's watch the video. Yeah, you can see it zooming in on what looks like a flat disc UFO in a gray sky, and that's a pretty typical UFO shape, ergo makes sense to me. User Toru32 was kind enough to decipher the chatter in the video for everybody, so allow me to discuss what was being said. Why can't he fire missiles at us? What do you mean? Holy F. F word. What the F is this? I'm telling you it's UFO for sure. It's standing still. Zoom in more. It's standing still, do you see? Can't see anything on the thermal cameras. Maybe ram it? They couldn't make out the last sentence, but I'm sure you get the idea by this point. Not to sound like a broken record, but if military officials don't know what the bleep they're seeing in the sky, and these are folks trained to recognize aircrafts from all sorts of different ways of the world, I'm leaning once again towards UFO. It should be noted that a lot of these experts are trained at what they call REIS, which is the art of recognizing aircrafts by their shapes, paint schemes, unit insignia, and more. Hyperfixation to the max? Maybe, but it takes a very specific brain to remember all of that. And if something doesn't make sense to that person, being the expert, it falls under unknown. Some folks have tried to discredit this video by saying it looks like a ship in the water, but consider the following. This footage was taken over land, and the pros are using a thermal camera. Ergo, the distortion causing the air over the water temperature shift would be visible. I don't have any other theories, but let me know in the comments if you do. Also, if this is legit, this means that commercial quadcopter drones are able to detect UFOs, and that's pretty huge news. You could potentially blanket an area with a drone swarm, all armed with IR cameras pointed right up. Since drones don't have, meat pilots, they're able to perform maneuvers that would otherwise be impossible to endure the G-forces of with any conventional aircraft, so we could get some close approaches. Okay, imagine this. Somebody reports a sighting, you could have like 30 plus drones in the area in minutes to investigate in a non-hostile manner. I would be foaming at the mouth for that footage and clarity. Like, gimme, gimme, gimme. Here's another Reddit gem, footage from some skydivers. This is definitely a clip where you need to wait it out. Because sure, I was ready to dismiss this one at first. I was like, okay, very obvious balloons in the sky, hoax hat on, next, click off. But then I was scrolling through the comments and I realized I wasn't supposed to be paying attention to that. I was supposed to wait for the curious little white dotted formation to appear near the folks hanging out in the sky. User Emery X captioned this video by saying, "We're skydivers, so we know it's not us." Second white speck we've seen today, seemingly floating down, wind up high. Odd orbital looking activity around it when zoomed in. Thought maybe stabilization stuff, but the bugs flying around in the video don't have that problem. So right there, that rules out a lot of the obvious debunking possibilities. They mentioned later that they had conferred with the human in the sky, who had also seen the unknown white things, so that's even more confirmation of it being something unknown, ergo a UFO. I think some of the commenters summed up my feelings exactly. If it's not CGI or doctored, I don't know what the bleep that is. The movement of the fast moving white thing around the bigger white thing reminded some folks of the ping pong ball in a cup effect that Dave Fravor described when he first saw the Tic Tac, and I agree with that. To elaborate, retired Navy Commander David Fravor, I know, I should be formal, was commander of the FA-18F squadron on the Nimitz when he spotted that specific object during a flight off of the coast of Southern California on November 14th of 2004. Him and Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, who I've talked about a lot of times on this channel, were training with the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group about 100 miles southwest of San Diego. Now at the time, advanced radar on a ship that was part of their training group, the Princeton, detected what operators called multiple anomalous aerial vehicles over the horizon, descending 80,000 feet in less than a second. Fravor and Dietrich diverted to investigate. Fravor was like, "Dude, do you see that thing down there?" And they saw this little white tic-tac looking object that was kind of moving around above the whitewater area. Now during the trainings exercise, both of them each had a weapons system officer in the backseat of the plane. So there was 4 folks in airplanes just watching this thing for about 5 minutes. Fravor was like, "Okay, I'm going in, let's get a closer look." And he described the tic-tac object mirroring his movements. He's like, "It was aware we were there. The object was about the size of the plane, no markings, no wings, no exhaust plumes, and when he tried to cut it off, it accelerated so quickly that it just disappeared." He said it was detected roughly 60 miles away less than a minute later. Now later, he went on record as saying, "I think what we experienced was well beyond the material science and the capabilities that we had at the time, that we have currently, or that we're going to have in the next 10 to 20 years. I think this spotting was similar to that one, and I stand by that statement as well." This is technically both a Reddit and a TikTok post, and while I usually hesitate to use TikTok as any kind of reference with how much videos can be edited on that platform, this seemed legitimate enough for me. User Dylan's mom uploaded this gem, which, sidebar, such a cute username. The caption reads as follows. "On Friday, March 1st of 2024, around 6 p.m., I captured a strange black object moving and changing shape in the sky above Bennington, Vermont. I did use Google Photos to help stabilize the video, and I muted the background noises of all the traffic and my voice. The video quality isn't that great, so I do apologize for that. No other edits have been made though. If anyone has any ideas of what this could be, please feel free to leave a comment. I posted my video on my TikTok account, but I wanted to share it with all of you." And seems innocent enough. So in the video, you can see what looks like a typical sunset, and then at first what seems like a speck of dust or a plastic bag in the sky. But then the camera zooms in a smidge and focuses, and you can clearly tell that what we're looking at is some sort of dark flat UFO that's aimed in a way that, well, wouldn't make sense velocity-wise for any kind of human aircraft or drone. Some folks suggested it could be a black contrail, which if you're not familiar with with the term, don't worry, neither was I until today. Contrails, which is short for condensation trails or vapor trails, are line-shaped clouds produced by aircraft engine exhaust or changes in air pressure, typically at aircrafts cruising altitudes several miles above Earth's surface. Look, I used to see jets flying in the air all the time growing up, and this was too precise in my opinion to be a contrail. It was too solid and didn't seem to break apart. Also, once again, what human spacecraft leaves black condensation behind? That just doesn't make sense. Alrighty folks, we're gonna end today with a story that I know has been on everybody's minds lately, and that's the monolith that popped up over near Hay Bluff. So last week, a hiker in Wales said he discovered this monolith, and it's kind of similar to those found around the world in 2020. Craig Muir, a builder, discovered the approximately 10-foot tall, I don't know what, during a regular hike, which means he's familiar with the area. Ergo, this wasn't just something left behind, some new discovery. This was something new that landed here on Earth. Originally, he was like, okay, it's a little bizarre. It might be a scientific media research thing collecting rainwater. But then he was like, okay, no, I'm wrong. This is too tall, too strange. What on earth? So he's like, okay, I'm gonna go investigate, which you're very brave to do so. He's like, okay, it's about 10 feet tall, kind of triangular, definitely stainless steel, maybe. At least that's what he knows. He's like, it seems hollow. I guess he knocked on it. And he's like, it seems like it would be pretty light. Which, hey, that all makes sense with what we know about UFOs. The column is similar to the monoliths discovered in a southwest Utah desert back in 2020. And there was also some that were discovered in like California, Texas, Florida, Wisconsin, Romania, and plenty of other places. Now, while the most famous artists later took credit for several of the US-based monoliths, nobody's claimed this one. So I'm betting on the aliens here with their advanced technology and advanced materials. Alrighty, how about we start off today with the most recent sighting on our list. Deep in the abyssal expanse of the Pacific Ocean, a mysterious circular enigma emerged. Scott Waring, a self-proclaimed UFO researcher, took center stage in this cosmic odyssey, unveiling a revelation that echoes from the depths off the coast of Nazca, Peru. The year is 2022, and the digital lens of Google Earth becomes the vessel through which Waring embarks on a journey into the aquatic unknown. As pixels coalesce to form the underwater tapestry, Waring's gaze fixates on a dark circle, an anomaly nestled in the oceanic embrace. The conjecture unfolds the circular specter, a submerged UFO, its secrets buried beneath the unfathomable depths. Waring's proclamation resounds. The UFO, a colossal entity spanning almost 5 miles in diameter, shrouded in the aquatic mysteries of the Pacific's abyss. The stage expands beyond the solitary UFO. It converges with the ancient whispers etched on the canvas of the Nazca lines. I've talked about them plenty. The tapestry of geoglyphs etched into the very earth of the Nazca Desert. Archaeologists, custodians of the past, have grappled with the purpose of these lines. It's a cosmic dance, a celestial calligraphy reaching towards the heavens. Some suggest an attempt to communicate with deities in the sky, a primitive signal across the eons. Others think, the lines might be more relating to the cosmos, seeing observatories woven into the very fabric of ancient knowledge. Unfortunately, because they're so old, we may never know the true meaning behind them. I've talked about them in depth pretty often around here, so I do recommend watching some of the other alien and UFO videos on the channel to get caught up if you're not already. So it's here, at the nexus of terrestrial and aquatic mysteries, where Waring perceives a connection. The submerged UFO, the unknown sentinel, all tethered to the Nazca lines in purpose or by coincidence? The juxtaposition of the ancient glyphs and the colossal dark disk between the ocean's surface kinda sparks the flames of speculation. Are the lines, etched by human hands, remnants of a cosmic dialogue? Or Waring, because he, like me, believes in extraterrestrials, thinks that the ancient Nazca culture sought communion with the deities beyond the celestial veil. Perhaps beings not of Earth? Aliens? His convictions echo in the digital realm, where pixels and conspiracies kind of converge. Waring's words echo through the channels of his cybernetic proclamations. The disk at the bottom of the ocean is 100% proof of aliens, which is a bold declaration, suggesting that the very technology of otherworldly origin is just hanging up beneath the ocean surface, something that's been there since long before our digital scrutiny. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are skeptical out there. It's kind of like that shadowy figure in the corner. Critics may dissect the pixels, question the accuracy of the digital lens, and ponder when it comes to the water, the human mind might be conjuring some stuff up where we don't see things already. The submerged UFO becomes an artifact of faith, kind of like a test for believers and skeptics alike. As the mysteries persist, this enigma, a cosmic punctuation mark beneath the waves, awaits the scrutiny of digital archaeologists, cosmic poets, and those who dare to peer into the unknown. Before I accidentally turn today into a UFO fest, which will probably still happen, have you met me? How about we dive into the idea of an underwater alien landing area? The theory stems from a number of UFO sightings near the Solomon Islands, with witnesses claiming the UFOs appear to rise out of the surrounding ocean where warships sank during the Second World War, before vanishing into a remote island lake. This theory was discussed on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens show, which looks at the most credible alien evidence here on Earth, which, my kind of show. Author Andrew Collins said on the program that there have been reports that objects, strange lights, actually rise up out of the waters into the air and move about for a period of time and then disappear. And often this is either witnessed from the beach or experienced close hand by fishermen, and it is said that sometimes these objects come so close that the fishermen can actually feel the heat as they pass. Another author, Mike Barra, said, "There have been sightings of flying saucers appearing over the wreckage, flying into and out of mountains and volcanoes in the area, making the whole area really pretty interesting." Another commentator on the show said that the UFOs are often seen in the ocean, as well as the sky. So, we got a lot of opinions here, and they all agree. He said that people often talk about seeing light, not only in the sky, but in the ocean. You see lights in the ocean, like you can't stress this enough. And they see lights flying past overhead as well, sometimes crashing, once again, into the ocean, like a plane would crash. These sightings have led some to conclude that aliens might have underwater bases in the area, and you might not want to cross paths with the mysterious life forms either. Tim Swartz, author of Conspiracy Journal, said that there are numerous accounts of abductions, people who disappear after coming into contact with said UFOs, never to be seen again. Now, I know the story of Betty and Barney Hill far too well to joke about alien abductions right now. Heck, I've talked plenty about abductions on this channel, and it's a very real and very scary thing. No thank you. Alrighty, back to UFOs we go. The Shag Harbor UFO incident was the reported impact of an unknown large object into waters near Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, a tiny fishing village on the Atlantic coast on October 4th of 1967. The reports were investigated by the RCMP, the Canadian Coast Guard, the Navy, the Air Force, as well as the U.S. Condom Committee, because you gotta have everybody. I also had to research that because at first I thought it was a table for condom and I was busting a gut laughing. Okay, I know. Time for facts. At about 11:20 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time, at least 11 people saw a low-flying lit object heading towards the harbor. Multiple witnesses reported hearing a whistling sound, like a, kaboom, and then a whoosh, and then finally a loud bang. While en route to Toronto while flying over Sherbrooke and St. Jean, Quebec, at about 3,658 meters from the Halifax International Airport, Air Canada officer Robert Ralph pointed out to Captain Pierre Charbonneau on Flight 305 that there was something strange outside of the left side of the aircraft at 7:15 p.m. In his report, the captain reported an object tracking along a parallel course a few miles away. He described it as brilliantly lit, a rectangular object with a string of smaller lights trailing it. At 7:19 p.m., the pilots noticed a sizable silent explosion near the large object, and 2 minutes later, a second explosion occurred, which faded to a blue cloud around said object. Meanwhile, while standing at the wheelhouse of his vessel, Captain Leo Howard Mercy was looking at 4 blips on his decorator that were stationary. When he looked up about 28 kilometers from the vessel's windows, he could see the 4 bright objects situated in a roughly rectangular formation. The entire crew of nearly 20 fishermen stood on deck and watched the object in the northeastern sky. Mercy radioed the Rescue Coordination Center and the harbor master in Halifax asking for an explanation, and also filed a report with the Lunenburg RCMP, outlining his sighting when they returned to port. So let's go back over to Halifax. The Chronicle Herald and local radio stations reported a glowing object that was seen by many people who were calling into the newsroom. They reported witnessing strange glowing objects flying around Halifax at around 10 p.m. Assuming an aircraft had crashed, within about 15 minutes, 2 RCMP officers had arrived at the scene. Concerned for survivors, the RCMP detachment contacted the Rescue Coordination Center in Halifax to advise them of the situation and ask if any aircrafts were, missing. Before any attempt at rescue could be made, the flying object, with light still showing, started to sink and disappeared from view. Just in the water and just glug, 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 glug. So, RCMP is going to assemble a rescue mission, ASAP. Within about a half an hour of the crash, local fishing boats went out to the crash site in the waters of the Gulf of Maine off of Shag Harbor to look for survivors. But there was no survivors, no bodies, no debris. Nothing was taken by fishermen, Canadian Coast Guard, nothing. Which, by the way, the Coast Guard search and rescue cutter arrived about an hour later from nearby Clark's Harbor. By the next morning, RCC Halifax had determined that no aircrafts were missing. And while still tasked with the search, the captain of the Canadian Coast Guard cutter received a radio message from RCC Halifax that all commercial, private, and military aircraft were all accounted for. And this was all along the eastern seaboard, in both Atlantic provinces and New England. They were pretty thorough. They're like, okay, we got nothing missing here. The same morning, RCC Halifax also sent a priority telex to the air desk at Air Force headquarters in Ottawa, which handled all civilian and military UFO sightings, informing them of the crash and that all conventional explanations such as aircraft, flares, everything, they'd all been dismissed. We knew nothing. The object was never officially identified and was therefore referred to as an unidentified flying object in Government of Canada documents. Yep, I'm just gonna repeat this for a fact because you heard me. The government of Canada officially confirmed it as a UFO. 2 days after the incident had been observed, a detachment of Navy divers from the Fleet Diving Unit Atlantic were assembled, and for the next 3 days, they combed the seafloor off of the Gulf of Maine, right off of Shag Harbor, looking for anything. Final report? No traces. No nothing. El Zippo. Just saying, it's fascinating that nobody found anything. And that the government confirmed it was a UFO. So, take that, skeptics. Alright, time to go back into the unknown. In 1977, the town of Broadhaven on the Atlantic Ocean coast of Wales was the location of a string of strange sightings that is considered the largest in the UK history. Roughly 450 people in total, according to government records, which is a lot of witnesses, so in my opinion, too many for this to be a hoax. It began with a sighting by 16 school-aged folks in February on a schoolyard of what they called a cigar-shaped object. A few of the witnesses claimed to have seen faceless beings near the supposed aircraft. Other locals began claiming to have also seen unexplainable things around the town, including the creatures without faces. A farming family reported multiple sightings in April and May, and even claimed that 120 of its cows mysteriously appeared on a neighbor's field a mile and a half away. But the rumor of extraterrestrials in Broadhaven truly began when multiple people say they saw a silver disc descend into the sea, with some alleging it entered via a small island just off the coast called Stack Rocks. Could it be, people wondered, that these seemingly faceless beings were using the island as a getaway to their secret underwater base? Look, I fully support the theory that aliens use the unknown underwater territory to their advantage, hiding in the depths that we as humans can't reach. I've mentioned it a lot before, but I genuinely think aliens hang out over in the Mariana Trench because humans can't get to the bottom of that. So maybe UFOs can. I'm ending today with a tale out of Alaska, which tends to be home to a lot of weird stuff. If you don't believe me, look up sea spiders. Forever shuddering from that one. Members of the Mutual UFO Network have made claims about alien bases found underwater off of the coast of Alaska, based on eyewitnesses' reports from decades ago. So UFOologists and UFO enthusiasts have alleged facilities dedicated to extraterrestrials elsewhere in the world, including Dr. Stephen Greer's claim that a mountain in South Korea is hiding a massive UFO. Meanwhile, though, the researchers have focused on the mysterious activities in Alaska, which have suggested that the deep waters could possibly be the hiding spot of aliens. Yes, I get it. To a lot of people, they're like, okay, come on, that's an obvious answer. Alaska, not a lot of people there. But there's researchers that believe there was truth to the claims about alien crafts that were allegedly seen by the crew members of a ship back in 1945. MUFON members strongly suggest that ETs have bases in the ocean thanks to the reports of the UFO movement over water witnessed by local residents. The UFO investigators say that they have studied reports of the UFO sightings from the 1940s which were never made public. If we didn't have enough to worry about in this crazy new year, may I offer you 10-foot tall aliens? Here's the thing, anything over 7 feet tall is already terrifying to me, personally. Ditto for aliens on their own, no matter what they look like. So if you're combining those two, hello, Alexa's Nightmares 101. A video showing 2 human-like creatures on top of a hill at an island in Brazil was gaining some traction on social media the other day. According to a New York Post report, the beings were 10 foot tall and spotted at Ilha do Mel, an island more than 3 kilometers off of the coast of southeast Brazil. Ilha do Mel, a favorite spot for environmentally conscious travelers and beach lovers, is celebrated for its varied ecosystems. Spanning a mere 5 kilometers in length and 800 meters in width, the island presents a scenic mosaic of natural marvels. So there was a couple of videos that were floating around. There was a main one, and then the second one was pretty close by, and the appearance of these creatures on the hilltop kind of sparked some buzz amongst the locals. They stand confidently on top of the hill, which locals say is difficult to reach, with the shrubbery barely reaching their knees. The pair could be seen swinging their arms in an eerily human-like manner, but not enough to convince eyewitnesses that they weren't witnessing aliens. One person said in one of the videos I saw, "It's too big to be a person." I agree. Look at the way he moves. It's really weird. Look at the size of those. It's very fast. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. For me, it's enough to see the speed with which this creature goes down the hill. Anybody who's done trails on hills like this knows that you don't go down a hill like this in 1 to 2 minutes. That was from one user on Instagram, and somebody else said that the way they move reminds him a lot of the Men in Black, which eep. Every time I mention the Men in Black, I get scared that they're just gonna be like right behind me and just. Somebody else was like, one thing I do know, I'm never stepping there again. Even the Brazilian government had to make a statement. They're like, okay, we're not gonna confirm if, the giants were tourists from another country or another planet, but they're like, surreal what happened on Ilha do Mel. Great summer. It's another story, and even strange beings came to check it out. Which, that's a bit of a weird tweet. Could you at least, deny, please? Or confirm? Not this weird, yay, tourist stuff. That's just scary. Time to travel back to a video from 2011 that I have no clue how to explain. We're traveling over to Sri Lanka for this one, and while it's not an alien sighting, it's one of the more unique UFOs I've ever seen in the sky. Look, I think I can mention that and That's saying something at this point. It has been almost a year of me hanging out with all of you fabulous internet people, and I've seen a lot of UFOs. So let's picture this. Not your run-of-the-mill alien sighting. This is a spectacle in the sky that defies any kind of explanation. We're not venturing into the cliched realms of little green men here. This is a peculiar cosmic artifact. The UFO looks holographic, kind of like a metallic spinning top toy, like a Beyblade, or two metallic Hershey Kisses pushed together and it's just sort of hovering in the sky. Whee! It's not your typical saucer-shaped trope. Think of it as a, once again, celestial Beyblade making an appearance in the skies. And the visual oddity doesn't end there. This could be, like I said, some Hershey Kisses. They could be engaged in a cosmic tango, pushed together in an otherworldly embrace. I know, it's a bit of a stretch, but like, look at the dang thing. And also look at its peculiar nature. It's a metallic spinning top, just hovering in the vast expanse of the sky, seeming to scoff at the conventions of our earthly expectations. This isn't your mundane, everyday UFO flying saucer. This is a cosmic ballet that leaves us, the audience to this extraterrestrial performance, in a state of what the bleep? Think of it this way. Is it a mere quirk in the sky, a celestial play of lights and shadows, or is it a glimpse into the cosmic absurdity that eludes our comprehension? The very essence of unidentified flying objects lies in the ambiguity that shrouds them, and this enigma is no exception. As we navigate, the unknowns, it's encounters like this that beckon us to question our understanding. Are we actually witnessing advanced extraterrestrial technology? Or is this an elaborate hoax? Like, is this some really weird drone, or a government thing that we don't know about yet? In the Grand Theater of the Cosmos, where the stage is set with galaxies and the script is written in the language of the stars, this UFO takes center stage as I don't know what. The cosmic mystery persists, leaving folks like me to grapple with the enigma of metallic spinning tops and celestial Hershey's Kisses just hovering in the tapestry of the unknown. Yes, I'm hungry. Yes, it's close to Valentine's Day. And yes, I do have Hershey Kisses at home. Okay. Imagine you're a homeowner heading out into your backyard simply to throw away trash and suddenly face to face with an alien. I don't think that'll ever happen to me in this lifetime, mainly because I don't see myself owning a home anytime soon. In this economy, as an actress, don't make me laugh. I know the worst my dad has ever dealt with was a baby bear, or maybe like a mama bear invading the trash, and he is a homeowner. Thankfully, they never tried to break through what was a wooden back door at the time. Not anymore, but at the time. Yeah, I know. Come on, Alexa, get back on topic. Last June, a video was circulating on the app formerly known as Twitter, depicting a non-human entity appearing briefly and blinking. The footage revealed a distinct form featuring two large eyes aligning with the caller's previous description. The caller reported, there's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one is inside, and it has big eyes, and it's looking at us, and it's still there. So in a couple of the videos, like 3 men and a woman can be seen attempting to record a non-human something. Notably, one of them is armed with a personal safety device. This did take place in the States after all. All of the folks in the video appear visibly frightened by the presence of this non-human entity that's just hanging out. And the police didn't really make an official statement, because why would they? The video footage that was accessed by a local news source, News Now, did show one officer walking into the backyard to investigate, and the video also shows a witness telling the police, I don't believe in it, but what I saw right now, I do believe in. And the cop's like, yeah, you guys seem like legit scared, so I don't blame you. However, without any concrete evidence, the police closed the case with no concrete answers. But like, come on folks, I know, government cover-ups are a thing, the proof is there. Good old malls, usually home to high schoolers, senior walking groups, and the most annoying families you will ever encounter. Trust me, I used to work in retail at a fairly large mall. Can you guess which store? But apparently on the first day of this 2024 year, the Miami Mall over in Florida might just have been home to something a little more out of this world. Alright, let's start with the official story. Apparently a group of roughly 50 youths caused a riot at Bayside Marketplace, an outdoor mall roughly 5 miles from South Beach. And granted, this is according to the Miami Police Department. They were setting off fireworks, which really? So obviously this led to panic, as some assumed there was a much more major crime. Now this came from Miami Police Department's Public Information Officer, Michael Vega. Only 4 folks were arrested though. Police were dispatched for crowd control due to, the panic. I've been in some panicky situations in crowds. You need a lot of help. Some businesses were also temporarily closed to allow the cops to clear the area, but Vega was like, aliens had nothing to do with this. Nope. He emailed the press saying there was no aliens, we didn't close any airports, nothing's being withheld from the public, LOL. Well, that's what people in power always say. Especially with an LOL, I believe that statement as far as I can throw it. And I'm not very athletic. In the days after the incident, folks on social media burst into a frenzy, honing in on what they described as Miami Mall aliens. Some folks suggested police were responding to aliens, not young people. Several people reviewed video of the incident circulating online and claimed that they could see an alien figure in the grainy footage. Others quickly posted memes because, well, we love memes. To quote a post I saw on the app formerly known as Twitter, 10 feet alien/creatures caught on camera, fired at inside and outside Miami Mall, media silent, cops are covering it up saying young people were fighting with fireworks, yet all these cop cars and air traffic stopped that night except for black military choppers and no media coverage. Wow, feel like I'm getting a nasty case of deja vu. Really? Like black military choppers? Clips taken from the viral video were shared a lot on social media, claiming that an 8 to 10 foot alien could be seen at the mall. Now once again, 10-foot tall aliens? Multiple? in this year already? The low quality clip appears to show a tall glowing figure near police vehicles. Look, I've seen videos that were less likely to be aliens turn out to be worth something in terms of being the genuine article, so I'm not dismissing it. What if every Florida man photo or meme was just an alien trying to blend in here on Earth and failing? Chew on that for thought. Also, what if they were hanging out in Brazil and were like, let's go try Miami next? I'm not quite sure if the final entry into today's list is a large bug, alien, or UFO, so I'm gonna need y'all's assistance to help me decipher just what in tarnation this damn thing is. So, the video, capturing this cloaked jellyfish-shaped object gracefully traversing the airspace above a US military base, kinda has a lot of people going, huh? This very curious footage, recorded through the lens of a thermal imaging camera, adds a layer of complexity to the ever-mysterious UFO whodunits. The video was initially shared by UFO investigator Jeremy Corbell and brought the peculiar incident into the public eye. Jeremy emphasized the incredible risk undertaken by an individual within the military ranks to smuggle this footage into the public domain. Whistleblowers have a very bad history of just disappearing if the government isn't happy, or just publicly being discredited if their boss is in a good mood. Now, the intrigue deepens as Jeremy details the movements of this jellyfish-looking, and mesmerizing ballet unfolds as the unidentified object glides over a body of water, abruptly halts its movement, descends into the water with an almost ritualistic precision, and then for a suspended 17 minutes, embraces silence. But then with the suddenness of cosmic punctuation, it goes, emerges from the water, launching itself into the sky at a daring around 45-degree angle. I was not good at math, folks. Amidst all of this, Sue Gao, a spokesperson for the Department of Defense, kinda came out, she's like, okay, official statement, right here, in her very carefully crafted words, she refrains from validating or debunking the authenticity of the leaked material, saying, we don't comment on the authenticity of alleged DoD materials that may have been leaked. But, once again, may have, not confirming, not denying. The subtleties of the statement aren't going unnoticed, everybody. Analysts like Ross Coulthart highlight the absence of a categorical denial, interpreting it as a strategic maneuver by government entities. It's the good old dance of neither confirm, don't deny. A classic diplomatic move when navigating, all this alien and UFO knowledge that we have. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, because my personal verdict, it's real. We saw this at Roswell. We've seen this ever since. The government says, oh, it's fake, and then it's real. Number 5, Betty and Barney Hill. Well, it only makes sense to start off today with the most obvious answer. The Hills were a married couple that lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The UFO sighting happened at around 10:30 p.m. on September 19th of 1961, when the duo were driving back to their home in Portsmouth from a vacation in Niagara Falls and Montreal. Welcome to Canada. Just south of Lancaster, Betty noticed a bright point of light in the sky that moved from below the moon in the planet Jupiter upwards to the west of the moon. While Barney was driving, Betty reasoned that she was observing a falling star. Only, it was moving up. Because it moved erratically and grew bigger and brighter, Betty convinced Barney to stop the car for a closer look. Barney obliged and stopped at a picnic area just south of Twin Mountain. By this point, Betty had dug out her binoculars for a closer look and described seeing an odd-shaped aircraft flashing multicolored lights travel across the face of the moon, believing it to be a flying saucer based off of stories she'd heard from her sister. The Hills said they continued driving on the isolated road, moving very slowly in order to observe the object as it came even closer. At one point, the object passed above a restaurant and signal tower on top of Cannon Mountain and came out near the Old Man of the Mountain. Betty later testified that it was at least 1.5 times the length of the granite cliff profile, which was 40 feet long, and that it seemed to be rotating. At one point, the object descended rapidly towards her vehicle, causing Barney to stop in the middle of the highway. The huge silent craft hovered about 80 to 100 feet above the Hills' 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air and filled the entire field of view in the windshield. Carrying his pistol in his pocket, Barney stepped away from the vehicle and moved closer to said object, which he later said was roughly the size of a huge pancake. And that statement right there just made me hungry. Still using the binoculars, Barney claimed to have seen 8 to 11 humanoid figures peering out of the craft's windows, seeming to look at him. In his report to investigator Walter Webb of the National Investigations Community on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, Barney described specifically that the beings were somehow not human. In unison, all but one figure moved to what appeared to be a panel on the rear wall of the hallway that encircled the front portion of the craft, kind of like a patio. The one remaining figure continued to look at Barney and communicated a message telling him to stay where you are and keep looking. Barney had a recollection of observing the humanoid forms wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Red lights on what appeared to be batwing fins began to telescope out of the sides of the craft, and a long structure descended from the bottom of the craft. The silent aircraft approached what Barney estimated was within 50 to 80 feet overhead and 300 feet away from him. Not arriving home till dawn, the Hills stated that they had some odd sensations and impulses they couldn't explain. Now if you're wondering what happened next, don't worry, so were they. They tried to reconstruct what exactly happened the night before, but their memories were incomplete and fragmented. After sleeping for a couple of hours, Betty awoke and placed her shoes and clothing that she'd worn during the drive into her closet, observing that the dress was torn at the hem, zipper, and lining, and later noticed a pinkish powder on said dress. Over the years, 5 different laboratories have conducted chemical and forensic analyses on the dress, and they got nothing. This wasn't the only damage to items in their possession. Barney said that the leather strap for the binoculars was torn, but didn't remember how. The toes of his shoes were scraped, and their watches were broken, and no matter what, they never worked again. There were shiny concentric circles, similar to the rings you would find on a tree trunk, on their car's trunk that had not been there the previous day. Betty and Barney experimented with a compass, noting that when they moved it close to the spots, the needle would whirl rapidly. But when they moved it a few inches away from the shiny spots, it would drop down. So 10 days after the UFO encounter, Betty began having a series of vivid dreams, which continued for 5 successive nights. She stated that she experienced them with a degree of detail and intensity that she had never had before. After the 5th night, the dream stopped and never recurred, but they occupied her thoughts during the day. Determined to recover their lost memories, the Hills opted to partake in hypnosis sessions. Barney recalled driving the car away from the UFO, but afterwards he felt compelled to pull off the road and drive into the woods, eventually spotting 6 men standing on the dirt road. The car stalled and 3 of the men approached the car, telling Barney, "Don't fear us." He was still anxious, however, and he reported that the leader told him to close his eyes. While hypnotized, Barney said, "I feel like the eyes had pushed into my eyes," a statement he would repeat each session. The best anyone has been able to rebut what happened was claiming sleep deprivation as the cause of what they saw and experienced. Oh, and by the way, when she was still recollecting everything, Betty was able to write out an entire star system that wouldn't be discovered for another 40 plus years. Mind-boggling. I'll admit, I'm usually much more of a skeptic, but this seems pretty dang real to me. Number 4, a gray alien abduction. Grant Rollins, a resident of suburban Maryland, described himself as a fairly normal bachelor, living in peace until this all went down in December of 2017. He woke up at 1:30 in the morning to the sound of a break-in and went to the bedroom door to confront the intruder, but was suddenly rendered unconscious as he touched the doorknob. He woke up naked and cold in a pill-shaped glass container. The lid was open, so he was able to stumble out onto the floor around said container and described feeling sluggish and barely able to walk, but he thought he'd been kidnapped, so he was urgently trying to find an escape route. The room he was in was made of mostly concrete and plastic with fluorescent lights. He managed to limp into a hallway that was tunnel-shaped and followed a blue glow coming from down said hall. As he walked, he came out of the tunnel and entered a large cylindrical room lined with vehicles on hooks along the walls. They were human vehicles, mostly Japanese and German cars and motorcycles, but some vehicles were clearly from the American military. In the center of the room was what looked like a metal tree that was 6 stories tall with glowing blue leaves. As Grant stumbled closer, he realized the tree was actually a large metal cylinder, and the leaves were capsules similar to the one he'd woken up in, except these still had people inside them and were radiating a neon blue glow. As he paid more attention to higher up in this tree, Grant noticed some blue wires moving about in the dark areas towards the ceiling. These clumps of wires suddenly floated down towards him and turned to reveal that they had faces in them, each with 2 large dark eyes and narrow slits for noses and mouths. He's compared them in appearance to the typical gray alien face from popular media, with 2 of the faces frowning and 1 smiling. Grant passed out once again, waking up later face down in a puddle of his own drool on a glass floor. He was too tired to get up and was barely able to tilt his head up just enough to take a look around. The room was circular, about 150 square feet in size, and a bright, sterile white color. One of the tentacled creatures was in the room, but was busy facing away and operating a set of strange controls with no buttons or levers. Out of exhaustion, Grant's head fell back down, and through the glass floor saw that they had risen out of a deep black hole that was dug into a grassy plain, where a rock-shaped lid closed around the hole to cover it. This is when he realized he was in a spacecraft, and had actually been in a silo of some sort that's here on Earth somewhere. Grant passed out for the last time and was awoken by the sensation of being dropped back into his bed with a hard thud. He checked his phone for the time and saw that it was now 6:30 in the morning. Later that day, he found an object that had been inserted and cauterized into his right leg, and experienced a run-in with some men in black suits within 4 days of said abduction. Number 3, alien births. There are a plethora of cases floating around this World Wide Web related to alien abductions, but this encounter of a 24-year-old Australian woman is something else. Megan Liker married her college friend Andrew Mayer in May of 2001. Their marriage was going really well, so they decided, we want to conceive. But despite the couple's best efforts, Megan was unable to do so. So the couple went to see many doctors, who asked her to undergo a lot of medical tests. The results showed that Megan had the body of an extremely old woman, and her reproductive organs were unable to function properly as they were deteriorated due to multiple pregnancies. As per the report, her uterus was as old as that of a 60-year-old woman. Now these reports stunned the couple, but Megan was confident that she had never become pregnant in her lifetime. So they're confused, they don't know what to do next. Now, one of her doctors stated that she could maybe get some answers by undergoing a lot of sessions of regressive hypnosis. She's like, yeah, why not, I'll do anything. And under the influence of said hypnosis, she stunned physicians with a remarkable account of her life. She revealed that once while walking through a municipal park, she noticed a UFO hovering above her. She tried to run away from it after it got too close, but suddenly felt herself being lifted up by a beam of light from inside the craft. After that, she felt dizzy and eventually passed out. Later, after regaining consciousness, she realized she was in a total pitch black room, no noise, very silent, which kind of scared her. She screamed and called out for help, but no one came to her aid. Using her sense of touch, Megan realized that she was in a small room with perfectly smooth walls and flooring. A flare of light illuminated the room, and then she saw the shadows of the people for the first time in a while. The shadows were of two small extraterrestrial creatures who asked her to get up. They were no taller than Megan's shoulders, with enormous heads, thin arms and legs, and enormous dark eyes. Then she was brought to a room that seemed like a surgical operating theater. After what seemed to be a preliminary medical checkup, the aliens put her in a room that had see-through walls, floors, and ceilings. There were also other abductees, directly located to her right and left, as well as below and above her. After a period of about 2 weeks, her stomach started to expand, and after a little more than a couple of months, Megan gave birth to her first alien spawn. During the process of giving birth, there were a number of different aliens there who stood and examined her as she writhed in front of them. And as soon as her spawn was delivered, he was whisked away from his mother without delay. Megan claims that hybrids seemed quite similar to humans, except that their eyes are much larger. Ignore my big eyes. After some time had passed, the examination in the operating room was carried out once more, and then another pregnancy came after that, and then another, and then another. Apparently this occurred over the course of roughly 4 years. During that time, she gave birth to around 48 offspring. After that, she became infertile and was no longer of interest to aliens. Hence, she was brought back to Earth, and all of her memories of alien abduction were erased. The memories were replaced with the memory that Megan served in the Army under a contract for those 4 years. But the Australian Ministry of Defence, where she had subsequently applied, stated that they never had such an employee, and they considered that Megan was maybe just crazy. Number 2, an abduction in Oregon. Back in 1967, Loretta Robertson was driving to Portland and had pulled over at a rest stop to take a nap when she heard a diesel vehicle pull up next to her. Trust me, you know what a diesel vehicle sounds like. A little later, she heard another one, but this time felt like it was on top of her, and all she could do was just sort of cover her head in horror. There was a pressure on her head, and a greenish-white light hit her feet and shocked the heck out of her. And that's, well, when she got beamed up, for lack of a better word. I remember feeling like she was seated on something, but couldn't open her eyes out of fear. She could feel the acceleration of going straight up, but couldn't feel any surroundings and can't remember any smells. She blacked out after that and woke up the next morning in her car and had to pull sticky items off of her skin, especially around her abdomen. There was a round unknown stuck to her stomach that didn't have legs and was the size of a jawbreaker, and when she crushed where it was attached to her skin, redness poured out. Her mouth felt like it was full of gravel, and she had a mysterious hole in her tooth that couldn't be explained by science. Number 1, the end of a relationship. Derek Ramsey witnessed an abduction back in 2006 when he was only 20. His story begins after a dinner with his girlfriend at the time and her mom, grandma, and younger sister. He was on his way out of the house, heading through the kitchen to the front door, when he saw 2 creatures leading the younger sister towards said front door. They were both small in size with long arms and a long neck and wore tight black jumpsuits, and Derek found himself frozen in shock as he watched them walk straight through the wall. There was an additional taller creature with a scaly brown face, wearing a robe with a hood over its head, and apparently looked similar to a lizard. He emerged from the bedroom where the other 2 were, leading the way for the younger sister. After that, his brain lost all memory until the next morning when he woke up in his girlfriend's room. The sister was spotted by neighbors, laying nude and unconscious in the front yard that same night. When he told his girlfriend everything he saw, she let him know that it was a regular occurrence and a family secret, which is why the dad had left the family unit years before. The duo continued to date for a little over a year after the first occurrence, but finally broke up. They did keep in touch for several years, and the strange happenings only got more and more intense. Alrighty folks, so we're gonna start today off with the son of a man who once ripped a bat's head off with his teeth. None other than Jack Osbourne. Hey look, if you're the offspring of Ozzy and Sharon, I'm assuming you've seen some wild stuff in your time, and ergo might be better at telling the supernatural apart from simply out of the ordinary. So in his show, Jack Osbourne's Night of Terror UFOs, which is a long title, but whatever, the star teamed up with a couple of his buddies, and since I feel like being a name dropper, Jason Mewes and Jamie Kennedy, with the trio heading off to Utah's Uinta Basin, where the notoriously creepy and mysterious Sherman Ranch sits. Yes, it has another name as well, no, I will not be saying it out of respect. The area has long been known for its otherworldly and unexplainable activity. The 500 acres of isolated land are located between Ballard and Vernal in Utah. Now, the Sherman Sherman family acquired the ranch way back in the 1990s. I thought I'd be funny there. And local myths have haunted the region though for centuries, before and afterwards. Now, before the Sherman family inhabited the ranch, the spot was known as UFO Alley. And the Desert News reported that in 1978, nearby residents had spotted a dome-shaped UFO over the ranch that was surrounded by a glowing green light. The family reported doorways of light appearing in mid-air, cattle that vanished, animals mutilated on their property, crop circle-like patterns in the surrounding fields, unidentified flying objects or orbs, and invisible objects emitting destructive magnetic fields. While investigating the disappearance of cattle, one man reportedly saw a large beast, like a wolf but bigger, harassing cattle near the ranch. The man fired an explosive at the creature that hit its intended target, but the creature didn't slow down and appeared to escape unscathed. In recent years, residents of the area have reported seeing strange lights both in the sky and close to the ground, and creatures and shapeshifters manifesting and then disappearing before their eyes. So, let's bring in our guys, shall we? They were joined by UFO expert and former FBI agent Ben Hansen, and they wanted to attempt to figure out if all these phenomena were connected, and also why is all this crazy activity concentrated in that specific area. And hey, I love a good hotspot story, so let's indulge this one. According to Jack, he's been obsessed with the concept of whether or not we're alone since he was like really young and used to stare up at the stars in the sky at night. Hey, I still do it. Now, this area in particular has fascinated him for years because it is a mecca for alien and supernatural activity. To quote him, people are drawn for specific things, but when you come here looking for it, you ought to find something you're not looking for. I've never been to any place like this and it's its own realm. Alrighty. So thankfully, Hansen brought a grounded and thorough understanding and knowledge, about UFOs to the table, whereas Jack's buddies were responsible for the comedy relief. You know what, Kennedy confessed, I'm okay if I see an alien along the way, as long as it doesn't mess me up. Okay, nobody tell him about Betty and Barney Hill, or anything else I ever talk about on here. So on the second night of their investigation, powerful lightning ripped through the area. Jack even said, it's like something doesn't want us to be here. And there was more than a little indication that he was right. Is this where I say, no SHIT, Sherlock? So he decided, you know what, I'm gonna try the night vision goggles. Always a fun little gadget. And that's when Jack saw something really odd trekking very quickly through the desert. Upright like a human, but then it just vanished. To quote him, I swear to God, I effing just saw an S-walker. And we got it on effing tape, dude, which was what he told its producer, referring to, the shape-shifting witch of legend that morphs into various animals, like wolves or bears. And the evidence didn't stop there, leaving them convinced that the area was a supernatural melting pot, which, obviously. Moving along, we've got out of this world level security. Look, I guess since the US government covers up so much alien and UFO stuff, it makes sense that it could be one of the places aliens are either forced to work at or just work at for safety in our world. There's a saying that the internet never forgets, and that's certainly true of old videos that kind of refuse to die. So this video in particular shows a US Secret Service agent who a lot of us think might be a reptilian shapeshifter. Now this is back from 2013. This is over a decade old now, and it stems from a speech given by former US President Barack Obama at a policy conference, and it was held by a lobbying group known as AIPAC. In the video, conspiracy theorists zoom in on the Secret Service agent and accuse him of being a reptile, saying stuff like, this was the day that the government was caught with a reptilian Secret Service agent in HD and they didn't deny anything, which kind of raises some obvious questions such as, I don't know. If the government was trying to hide its reptilian agents, why put one in a highly visible position at a televised event? If reptilians are capable of shapeshifting to look like humans, why not just shapeshift into something less obvious, like a table, or a chair, or a microphone? Do shapeshifting reptilians get full pay and benefits, similar to government employees? Look, while this might be considered a conspiracy theory, I looked at the footage myself, I believe it, and also, with the hours that Secret Service must have to keep, it makes sense that a more advanced race would be best in charge of protection guidelines. Now, I did read a story published by Wired way back when, and there was a quote from Caitlin Hayden, spokeswoman for the National Security Council, in which she refers to the budget cuts at the time, saying, I can't confirm the claims made in this video, but any alleged program to guard the president with aliens or robots would likely have to be scaled back or eliminated in the sequester. I'd refer you to the Secret Service or Area 51 for more details. I guess alien guards got a raw deal during the sequester. Now, the White House didn't clarify if its reptilian Secret Service agents are subject to the furloughs without pay that were affecting federal employees at the time. That might have prevented Obama from falling into the clutches of an intergalactic conspiracy, which, who knows, maybe the president was in on it from the start. One theorist claims that he literally looked for the video everywhere and couldn't find it. The only place it existed now was Reddit. So if the government was trying to hide the video, it's doing a really bad job. This theory's been floating around for years. I'm not the first one to say it, I won't be the last. Also, one of the more prominent promoters was David Icke. So this whole thing is pretty sure that this race of reptilians is secretly controlling the world, pulling the strings in major human atrocities. Now, David, who is English, has been barred from holding events in countries like the Netherlands and Germany because of his theories. I don't know, folks. What do you think? I saw the footage. I think it's real. Okie doke. So now we're in the middle of the pack, and this one is my personal favorite footage, I think, ever. Right here on the interwebs, I declare Melania Trump is a shapeshifter. Does anybody else remember back in like 2017 to 2020 when Donald Trump was in office and videos of Melania looking a little off took over the internet? Specifically, the first hashtag fake Melania seems to have landed on October 13th of 2017 when a video of Donald and Melania in a news segment was uploaded to Facebook by Andy Wagner. So in the segment, Trump was talking to reporters when he mentioned Melania, who happens to be right here, he said. He gestured to the Melania-esque sort of looking woman in sunglasses next to him, and she didn't say anything, but she does a lot of nodding. So a couple days later, Wagner put it on YouTube, then she tweeted about it a few times, and then it went viral, and now, fake Melania. So after that went viral, Stephanie Grisham, the First Lady's communications director, went on CNN to do some damage control, saying that, once again, we find ourselves consumed with a ridiculous non-story. We could be talking about the work the First Lady is doing, including the opioid crisis that is gripping the nation. Good attempt at taking the conversation in another direction, but I took PR in university. Try better. Here's my theory. What if Melania is an alien shapeshifter and the photos and videos caught her on an off day where she wasn't at full power? Similar to Superman, maybe there's something in our universe that acts as like a kryptonite of sorts for her, which is why she's so reclusive in her ways. Fake Melania kind of put the First Lady's reserved approach to her post in the East Wing under a magnifying glass. She stayed in New York City with her son for the first 5 months of Trump's term, and rarely gave public comment in the first 2 years, which is a good way to avoid scrutiny from eagle-eyed folks looking for proof of alien DNA. A source close to Melania claimed that she wasn't really keen on being in the White House, and she even disappeared from public life for weeks. Maybe she was visiting alien relatives. Eventually, her office attributed the absence to a kidney ailment. So even though the White House tried to bury all of this, the meme came back one more time when Trump and his wife visited Alabama. And then, a couple days afterwards, was spiking. Eventually it settled. Eventually, Trump had to weigh in on Twitter and said, "The fake news photoshopped pictures of Melania then propelled my conspiracy theories that it's actually not her by my side in Alabama and other places." Hey, maybe that's why Trump's so batty. He's around alien tech all the time. Ever tried that on for size? Alright, next up, one has to ask, do aliens rule the world? Look, I've already talked about possible aliens in the White House. It's not that much of a stretch to guess that maybe part of the royal family might be of alien descent. May the former Queen of England absolutely rest in peace, but honest to goodness, I don't think anybody lives that long without having some sort of secret. So if you look closely at the video in question, particularly at the Queen's eyes, something is just a little off. Being in power for 70 years without slipping up in one's disguise is a feat I absolutely commend her for. But at the same time, after that faux pas, she retreated more and more from public events, probably to protect her identity. Look, I'm not the only one with this theory, and I know it. There's quite the popular theory out there that Draconian Martians are a superior race of being, and over time they've traveled to Earth and either organically become our leaders or replace those already in charge to lead up to their end goal, whatever it may be. And before somebody says that's far-fetched, similar tales exist all throughout history, dating back to fairies and changelings, which is honestly something I also believe in. And I'm guessing you do too, or else you wouldn't be here. Alrighty folks, so I'm gonna end today's list with what might be a controversial take, so bear with me here. What if I told you that on a remote ranch in Oaxaca, Mexico, a farmer named Roman Ochoa claims to have witnessed something really nuts? So let's just picture this right now. It's not like all the other footage today. This mysterious creature, neither fully man nor beast, seemingly caught in the act. So Roman is the owner of the Ojo de Agua Ranch and has a tale that kind of is a mixture of mythology, werewolf folklore, but you've got a bit of a dash of extraterrestrial intrigue, which is why it fit this list. He swears by the existence of naguals, beings believed to have the ability to transform into their spirit animals. In this case though, it's not just a run-of-the-mill shapeshifting scenario. It's a man morphing into a werewolf, and happening right on his ranch. Now according to Roman, the man in question didn't stumble upon this extraordinary power by accident. And it's not a curse, not a magical mishap. The werewolf abilities were bestowed upon this individual by an alien. Yeah, so an extraterrestrial entity allegedly granted the power of metamorphosis to this unsuspecting earthling, ergo, alien shapeshifter. Now let's talk about the evidence. We do have a picture capturing the transformation in progress. The creature in question, halfway between man and werewolf, stands on all fours, paws eerily resembling human feet. Imagine being inches away from such a spectacle, and despite the proximity, Roman insists that the ranch workers remained unharmed. How's that for a close encounter? Look, the implications are staggering. After everything I've talked about today, shape-shifting aliens granting extraordinary powers to humans in our world? Are we witnessing the intersection of ancient mythologies and extraterrestrial inventions? Who knows? Maybe I should go visit that ranch.